Window breaking. When Englishmen do it, it is regarded as honest expression of political opinion. When English women do it, it is treated as a crime. Emmeline Pankhurst was a radical political activist and leader of the British suffragette movement in the late 18 and early 1900s. Over the course of her life, she faced many hardships to help win the women of Great Britain the right to vote. Born Emmeline Goulden in July of 1858, Pankhurst was the eldest of 10 children. She was born into a politically active family that taught her to be an abolitionist and to support female suffrage. She was 14 when she attended her first women's suffrage meeting with her mother. Goulden met Dr. Richard Pankhurst in Manchester in 1878, a fellow political activist, a suffrage supporter, and 24 years older than Emmeline. The couple married in 1879 and Goulden became Emmeline Pankhurst. Over the course of their marriage, in the next decade, the Pankhursts had 5 children and multiple campaigns for her husband's run for Parliament. The couple would host political gatherings in their own home. Dr. Richard Pankhurst died in 1888 after contracting diphtheria. Following his death, Emmeline threw herself back into politics and joined the National Society for Women's Suffrage Party. However, her and a few other women didn't agree to the old rules, so they broke off and made their own branch called the Parliament Street Society, PSS.
She eventually parted from this group, and in 1889, Pankhurst became a founder of the Women's Franchise League, a program her and her husband created together, and it fought for married women to be able to vote in local elections. After associating with the NUWSS for many years and getting nothing out of their peaceful approaches, Pankhurst created her own foundation. In October of 1903, Pankhurst created a women-only group with her daughters focusing solely on voting rights called the Women's Social and Political Union. Their slogan was deeds, not words. Pankhurst's eldest daughter, Christabel, was the co-founder of the Women's Social and Political Union and used the law degree that she had previously obtained to help write speeches, organize rallies, and partake in similar riots and marches like her mother. However, the WSPU was not a peaceful organization. The women of this group wanted to make change and make it quick. Thousands of women were involved in hunger strikes, marches, and rallies. Many women, including Pankhurst herself, were arrested in the streets. Pankhurst threw a rock at the Prime Minister's residence, resulting in violence. Force feedings for her and many other women. These hunger strikes led to early release for many suffragettes. Pankhurst was given a 9-month sentence. She was soon freed after her choice to not eat. When in 1910 and 1911, the Consolation Bill that included women's suffrage failed to pass, the violence escalated. The WSPU militancy began breaking windows, vandalizing public property, and art and arson. The hunger strikes continued.
In 1913, the Prisoners' Temporary Discharge for the Third Health Act was passed. This allowed prisoners taking part in hunger strikes to be released and then rearrested once they had recovered from their malnutrition. This became known as the Cat and Mouse Act, officials and police officers being the cats, and the suffragette prisoners being the mice. In 1913, Pankhurst received a sentence of 3 years for inciting these violent crimes. This went on into 1914, when everything changed because of the war. Pankhurst called for a halt to all militancy and demonstrations. There would be no point in fighting if there was no country to fight for. The government released all women's social and political union prisoners, and Pankhurst encouraged women to join the war effort and fill in for factory jobs so that men could fight on the war front. Because the women helped the war efforts, the British government was able to see the benefits of having women in the workplace and sought to grant them partial voting rights in 1918. With the Representation of the People Act, women over the age of 30 who met a property requirement and men over the age of 21 received the right to vote. Due to her radical ways, Emmeline Pankhurst pushed the British movement forward for women and turned societal standards around, empowering women and furthering gender equality in Great Britain. During the late 1920s, Emmeline's health began to decline due to her past of hunger strikes and illness. After being moved to a nursing home in Hampstead, England, she requested the same doctor who attended to her during her hunger strikes. She passed away on June 14, 1928, at the age of 69. Even though Pankhurst was not alive to see the finale of the women's movement in Great Britain, when the Equal Franchise Act of 1928 gave all men and women over the age of 21 the right to vote. However, her legacy lives on. Through her radical and productive movement to gain women the right to vote, it turned the movement for the better and eventually gained women in Great Britain the right to vote.